Hey everyone, my name is Rachel McFarlane and I studied film scoring and games and interactive media scoring at Berklee College of Music. One of the most eye-opening things Berklee has taught me is that composers rarely get picture-locked videos anymore when they're applying for a job. Instead, you get a brief. A brief is a document or a set of instructions given to a composer that outlines the creative, emotional, and technical requirements for a piece of music. It's commonly used in film, TV, video games, commercials, or any piece of media where the music needs to align closely with an emotion, mood, or brand. Think of it as a musical blueprint that guides the composer's work, especially when visuals or specific timings aren't yet available. So what I have here is a brief that I got from my dramatic scoring class about a knight saving a princess. So let's compose this thing using Berlin Orchestra created with Berklee. The brief says that the scene begins in the dead of night. A lone knight stealthily infiltrates a towering, ancient castle. He moves with caution, knowing danger lurks around every corner. As the knight navigates the dim corridors, faint hints of a heroic motif begin to surface. The music should reflect both his courage and the precariousness of his situation. So, the two moods that I'm thinking about here are heroic and tense. For the hero's theme, we need something simple yet triumphant. I'm going to add the horns and let them play D going up to F. That's our hero motif. Now let's layer some woodwind staccatos on top. Now I want to do a little call and response with the flute and the horns while he's venturing through the castle. Now, the brief is saying, suddenly, as he scales a crumbling stone wall on a rope, the knight loses his grip and nearly falls. A brief, harrowing moment of terror. This sudden shift should be reflected in the score. The knight regains his footing and bursts into the tower chamber. The princess, hopeful and startled, rises. A tender but urgent moment as they lock eyes. So that's a lot of mood changes in a short amount of time, especially because I have to imagine it all. Let's tackle this section by section. For the danger part, if you haven't noticed, I've been holding back on using the lower pitched instruments until now. This is a really easy hack to allude to upcoming danger. I'll be using the timpani to get that low rumble for when he's about to fall off the tower. I'm going to switch the strings from staccato to spiccato now to add tenseness into the chromatic line. We'll keep this going until we finally get the princess and add that hero theme back. Before they can escape, the dragon awakens with a ground-shaking roar. The walls tremble and the chase begins. The knight and princess sprint through the narrow corridors as fire and debris crash around them. I'm imagining an intense chase scene here, and this can be really tricky to pull off without picture. When people think of chase scenes, the first thing that comes to mind are ostinatos. And you're not wrong, they're definitely time savers, but at some points they can get really boring. To add onto this continuous E line, I'm adding percussion and a syncopated ostinato on top to keep things interesting. Another easy trick you can do is add woodwind flourishes. I'm going to add the sustained legato patch because if you go here, on the bottom right in the legato controls, you can change the speed zone to play runs at a certain speed. So now the brief says, mid-chase, they encounter a collapsing bridge over a fiery chasm. A tense moment of decision and daring leap. The score should momentarily thin out to create suspense before surging back with full orchestration. So we have to change things up a bit to keep it interesting. The easiest way to do this is by changing up the instrumentation. The strings can go in the background while the woodwinds and brass come back with vengeance. Okay, we're almost done, I promise. Finally, they reach the castle's gates. The dragon closes in, but they escape just as the castle crumbles behind them. So in my head, this makes sense to be the climax. I'm thinking that we give the timpani and the horns a bigger role here, and we bring the strings back in. This is where they're about to escape. I'm thinking we give the timpani and the horns a bigger role here and bring the strings back in. So here's how it sounds all together. This turned out pretty well despite not having anything to look at. My teachers would usually say, when working on briefs, the music should distinctively be able to let you know what part of the story you're in. And I think Berlin Orchestra, created with Berklee, has given me the tools to do that. If you're a student or just starting out with composing, Berlin Orchestra, created with Berklee, is the best tool to get you started. If you want to learn more, head over to the link in our description.